Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. Today, I am joined by our guest, Leslie.e.navarro. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. Wanted to jump in right away as far as you're an insurance agent with Allstate, but what was the journey to get there? What do you do currently? And if you could kind of give us a picture of what your job looks like with all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Allstate now. I've owned the agency for almost 4 years now. I was working in the office previously before I took it over, probably a couple months. But before that, very interesting actually. I was in banking for a long time. I started as a bank teller right out of high school, and then I actually got into title and escrow for about 5 years after that. And then I took a brief break. I had my kids. I stayed home for about a year. And then I decided to get my insurance license, and I started working for an agent.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then are you running an independent place now?
Yeah. So we do. So with Allstate, we are what they say an exclusive, like captured agent. I have the agency out in Oxendale, and it's one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then are you a part of a team? How does that dynamic work with the insurance agency?
Yeah. So with Allstate, the great thing about that company is that, it's our own business, really. So it's our own book of business, and, we run our business how we see fit, right? So I currently have one staff in office, and then I'm basically there most days as well. So I'm, pretty hands-on.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not playing golf, from 9 to 2 every day.
That's what realtors do. I can attest to that. I saw some guys where they were getting very good at their golf swing on a regular basis.
Hey, if I can get there, I feel like I'm slacking on my golf game.
All right. So what does I'd say like a typical day look like? As far as I'm very ignorant to the insurance world. I talked to Carlos about it, so it felt like I learned a couple things, but at the same time, a lot of it seems like, okay, everyone needs insurance for the most part, right. But what does it look like on your end in regards to if I come to you and say, hey, I'm looking to get insurance policy for my car, house, whatever it is, what does it look like on your end?
Yeah, so it's so nowadays it's very rare for us to actually get walk-ins into the office. I mean, maybe we'll have a few a week, but typically everything is done over the phone. Everything is done over text. Everything's done over email. So I mean, if someone were to approach me with, hey, they send me an email, I need a quote on this. I'm like, okay, well, I ask for just simple information, work up that quote for them, and then I always like to follow it up with a call. That way we can go over the policy, properly disclose. A lot of the times is just explaining. I feel like with insurance, it's almost like you'll probably hear the same spiel over and over, but you kind of forget you hear it because it's boring. I mean, let's be honest. It's just a lot of that. It's a lot of educating customers and answering what if scenarios and things like that. I mean, we do get a lot of call-ins into our office, so that keeps us pretty busy. We kind of take things as they come in, and then there's the prospecting part, which is a little bit separate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if someone needs to make a claim, does that go through you guys? Does that go through a separate part of it? Is there an integration through both of them? Or how does that work?
Well, the great thing about having an agent, and this is kind of what I tell my customers all the time is, I like to be the contact where, hey, Leslie, I have a question about a claim. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? Let's talk about it first before... it kind of gets to the claims department, and here's why. For auto insurance, I mean, that's a little bit more straightforward, like go through claims, like if something happened, if you have questions, I'll be there to help. But when it comes to home insurance, I feel like that's where our customers do need a little bit more guidance. A lot of people don't understand how the deductible works. A lot of people don't understand what is what's covered under the insurance. A common thing we get is like, oh, well, my roof is leaking. Okay, well, your roof is 30 years old. It's time for you to replace it. So it's almost like just having those conversations because, we are here to help. We are here to kind of avoid, rates going up in the future because of unnecessary claims. We're kind of that little buffer where, someone that doesn't have an agent, it's like if they're called their claims department, they're automatically going to put a ding on their claims record. So I feel like that's something that's very important for people to understand, that it's not just, hey, well, let me call and ask a question. No, call an agent first. They can kind of guide you in the right direction. That way you don't file something unnecessarily, basically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's your friend then in the insurance space rather than just dealing with some arbitrary person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's almost like we get a lot of questions like asking for a friend questions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I do like to be that person. I do like to kind of help where I can, and obviously just give good insurance advice. I think that's just so important.
Yeah, gotcha. And then you said that you do work with another associate.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you split the roles? Is it very overlapping so that you guys can handle more volume, or is it more individualized roles so that, hey, this is more your strength, these are more my strengths, let's run these both together so that we can try and get that same volume going?
Yeah. So the way it works right now is I'm actually really blessed to have my staff because she knows it all. I mean, she knows the ins and outs. I mean, she handles, most calls, basically. I'll step in there when there's like escalations and things like that, where it's like, oh, I need to talk to my agent. And I'll step in there. But for the most part, she can kind of handle running the whole show without me. And I think that as the team grows, then that's when we're going to start, specializing in, dedicated sales, dedicated service. But I'm almost kind of just waiting to see what happens in the insurance space, just with changes in not only the industry, but also changes within the company. That's going to kind of make me see, what makes more business sense of which route to take.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Are there rumors kind of coming down the pipeline in regards to some structuring with the company?
Yeah. So one thing that a lot of insurance companies do is, they want something to be very uniform as far as, service goes. So a lot of calls are like servicing calls are being routed directly to Allstate. So when that happens, it's like, well, do I really need a service person? Does it make sense to get one if, the company's going to be taking care of it? And then, I mean, most of the times it's very simple things where it's like, it's really not that. It's not to the point where I need to have a dedicated person for that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that for the insurance industry is there's a lot of data that is being collected in regards to the individualized drivers a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So have you seen a lot of that? Is there more that's coming with that in regards to how they're trying to collect the data on that and things of that nature? Yeah.
No, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's more and more in that, but I feel like that's just with every industry. It's like, if they can collect all the data on you, they will. So with driving, it's very interesting because, Allstate did come out recently, within the last couple of years, with a usage-based policy. So basically, you pay as you go. It's kind of like a prepaid insurance. And they were actually, one of the very first companies to do it. So, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad, but it's definitely more tailored to an individual's specific needs. Especially nowadays, it's like, I mean, maybe not so much Phoenix, but in other cities, it's like a lot of people don't even have a car. A lot of people use Uber. They use, city transportation, whatever the case. So, I mean, I feel like there is just a shift in the way we use our vehicles anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a shift on the insurance side then more towards commercial policies for people where if they are going to be driving Uber or things of that nature, because obviously if someone's doing that, they're behind the wheel a ridiculous amount of hours a day. Right. And so I'm assuming that causes a higher liability on the insurance end.
Yeah. So Allstate, so we do have, it's called an endorsement that we can add to Lyft and Uber drivers, where they're specifically protected. And if someone is driving for Uber or Lyft, I think they have to become very familiar with the type of policies in place, because I know there's like an Uber side of things, which I'm not too familiar with, but then there's like on your personal, you have to make sure you're disclosing for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in regards to client acquisition, I know we talked about this just real briefly before we started recording, but is there boundaries on, like, does Allstate say, hey, you're in our Avondale office, so we'd appreciate if you kind of work within these boundaries, or is it up to you in regards to, hey, the world is yours, however much you can go conquer it? Yeah.
So it's basically, wherever your license allows you to, right? Okay. For example, myself, I'm only licensed in the state of Arizona. So I can market statewide, and I can, market to Tucson, I can market to Flagstaff, really statewide. A lot of agents will do that, where it's like they'll purchase, internet leads, and that's really, statewide. A lot of the times it won't be someone that's, super local or their closest office. A lot of the times it'll be far away.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And then I know that you're pretty active on social media. There we go. With that, so is that a big part of your marketing? How much do you put into pushing social media? Yeah. How much do you go into marketing other ways? Where do you see a really good return on the marketing investment for yourself?
So as far as social media, I mean, I think that I would say maybe 30% might come from social media, where it's, I'll have, lender partners reach out like, hey, can we get a quote? Or, it's much less of, individual customers like looking for insurance. Maybe I could probably count 20 times that's happened. It hasn't been very high at all. But I almost do it because I enjoy it. I do enjoy putting out content about insurance in just like a low threatening way. I think insurance can be very complicated for people, and
very scary too.
Yeah, it is scary. So I kind of try to put it in a way where it's like, let's simplify it, but like, let's make it less scary. Like, this is what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as budgeting for it, I mean, I'll put out ads maybe every few months, and I'll maybe spend, $50 to put out an ad that I create myself.
On social media specifically?
Yeah. I'm actually working on getting a social media manager to kind of supplement. But for the most part, I kind of handle it myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned lenders are a part of the people who will send you referrals, but how do you go about creating those relationships with lenders to be able to make sure that you've got the pipeline there?
Yeah.
And then where else would you find a lot of the leads that you're acquiring?
So with lenders, I feel like it's more word of mouth of like, hey, Leslie has some really good home insurance rates. Give her a shot. So it's almost like I feel like I should do more of like outreach, but it's almost just like, hey, I'm putting out this content. Like if it serves you, use it. If you need a quote, if I get a DM, it's like, hey, if you need a quote, let me know. But I feel like it's almost like I try to attract the business instead of, chasing after it so much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Create something that's very good that people are coming to
Yeah.
rather than,
Right.
I'm over here.
Yeah, exactly. And the good thing is that, I am backed by a very good company. I really do believe in our products. I mean, it's a legit company. So I feel like I wouldn't be doing business with maybe someone that wasn't of the quality. You know what I mean? So if I'm confident in the product I'm selling, I'm very confident of, asking for the business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then were you working for an agent with Allstate, you said previously, to when you took over?
Absolutely. So my brother actually opened the agency back in 2015, and he was running it for, so I took it over beginning of 19.
Okay.
Yeah. I started that whole process in the beginning of 19, and I worked with him for about 2 months, and then that's when the transition happened, and I took over the agency from him.
That is not a lot of overlap time.
No, it's not. It was very much sink or swim. But honestly, I look back on it, and it was like the best time of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about the pressure, something about the stress. It's like you're going, right? So when I decided to take over the agency, it was like I had literally about 3 weeks to get 2 full licenses. So I mean, it was really stressful, and it was that, and like, hey, am I gonna get approved to even take it over? So it was a life-changing decision, really, but I'm really blessed that I was able to do it. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
And you feel like this is a vein you want to continue with for several years at this point, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like insurance kind of happened to me.
Okay.
It wasn't like, I don't think it's any girl's little dream of being an insurance agent.
Not usually, no.
But I really love it. I feel like I have the personality for it. I'm kind of been like a rule follower from the get-go. So I think it just fits my personality, just kind of analytical in that way. And it's just about improving, really, in on the insurance, on the business side of things. I mean, I think you're just constantly growing in that sense. You know what I mean? So I love it, and I hope to be in insurance for, maybe till I retire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much competition do you have? Because I know, like, in real estate, it seems that I got my license, and in the process of getting my license, found out that everyone I know knew 3 other real estate agents, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just an interesting dynamic, and then you get into the workplace, and you're going, I'm competing against everyone and their brother, it feels like. So how much competition do you have in that space, as far as, is it very saturated, similar to real estate? Is it like you said, there's not a lot of people who decide, you know what, I'm going to go into insurance, that's the thing I'm going to go do. So where do you feel like the insurance agent state is right now?
Yeah. So I feel like our biggest competitions a lot of the time is, the online shopper. It's like, you can log into, Progressive Geico, get a quote, and you can really just forego an insurance agent altogether. Right. So I think that's kind of really our biggest competition. As far as insurance agents in our area, I mean, there's a lot of them, yes. But I don't know, like I almost feel like it's more community over competition in a lot of ways. I mean, at least for me, it's like I'm not going out there, trying to take another agent's business. Absolutely not. But I think it's more of just making customers aware of the value of having an insurance agent. I think that's where it's at. And And I think for me specifically, the way I see it is, I just want to be like that resource that they can kind of come and talk to us. Kind of just take that fear out of it in a way. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, like, yeah, there's a lot of competition, but I think it's more on like the internet shopping side.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So one of the things I feel like for business is people have to have their it factor, and it's why should they choose to work with me versus someone else who's similar in my position.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned that just being very personable and making sure that you have a connection with people, being very good at educating them. Hey, here's why I would recommend having an agent. Do you feel like that is your it factor, or do you feel like it's that and something else, or do you feel like in the back of your mind, like there's something that here's what makes me different and stand out from others?
Honestly, I think the it factor for us is we really make friends with our customers. I can't tell you how many customers they just send their family, send their friends. It's like, hey, call Leslie for insurance, call this office. I feel like from the beginning, I always kind of wanted to make my office feel like a little bit homey. You know what I mean? I think it's we specialize. We're more geared towards like the Hispanic community, and it's like me and my brother were first generation in the U.S. And it's like we understand the community. We understand what people are looking for. It's like, when you call our office, it's gonna be like, hey Thad, how are you doing? And it's very personal, and so we really get to know like our customers. And I think that's kind of the difference, because yeah, you can go online and you can do everything for yourself, but in a world where it's just so tech driven, I think people kind of do crave like that personal like touch, like personal like communication, that just even a conversation, So I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I don't know. I think it's just very simple in that way.
I feel like, to your point, there's a lot of people who more and more they fall in and sometimes it varies on what product or service they're going after, but some people are, all right, I'm just going to do it through Amazon, online, whatever it is, make it quick, fast. Like, I just need it at my door. And then for other things, it's also, they're like, all right, we need to talk to someone. Who do we know that is an expert in this? And so it's one thing to go online and be like, all right, well, this article says one thing, and then I go to the next one and, oh my gosh. So it is interesting, because I feel like there's this clamoring in my head every once in a while where it's like, the internet's taking over. And then there's the other side where it's like, no. Relationships are here to stay. No one's getting rid of those. So it is interesting from that aspect.
Absolutely. I think it's just in business, it's like, you do have to have like that connection with people. It's very easy to just automate everything, but nothing really beats like a phone call. Nothing beats really just, we started doing happy birthday texts from our office. It's like people really get a kick out of it, because it's like they know they're talking to us. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, I guess we could automate everything, but I really do enjoy just doing that, like personal things. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm one of those shoppers who, if I feel like, which I saw it on the real estate side, so it kind of made me jaded towards it, where there are so many things that get automated that I'm like, ugh, just get that away from me. But then when you do get that, like, all right, that's not just a robo number. It's like, no, that's your actual phone. Like, okay, that's when all of a sudden, hey, no, I've got someone for you to talk to. Go talk to Leslie. Like, she's gonna take care of it. Stuff like that.
Yeah. No, we automate where we can.
Right.
And a lot of it is kind of done for us anyway. As far as your bills coming up, so Allstate does kind of take care of a lot of that on their end, but no,
more of that customer service side, right? Because there's some of it where I saw for us, we've got the contact management system, and you can set up to where it'll have like a birthday card sent out to someone, but it's through a service. So it's not that like I could make it where I don't have to do it,
Right.
or certain things like that. Or if it's, I don't know, it seems like sometimes the possibilities are endless. Where yes, absolutely, there's certain times where it's like, I'll use templated emails because I need to give every customer the same information over and over, just personally. But I think that, like you said, there's definitely like there's a time and a place for that personal touch.
Well, and you know, I was actually thinking about this a few weeks ago, where it's like, I really want to be kind of like on the customer end of things, where I'm like, what am I receiving? Like, what am I receiving from your office? You know what I mean? Like does it make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like, because I think they get so many emails and they're just bombarded, and it's like, I didn't get an email, I didn't get my renewal or whatever, and it's like, I kind of started thinking the other day, I'm like, I feel like we need to look at it backwards.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's like, what are we receiving as customers, and I think it almost kind of helps them prioritize as well, right? Like what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just being very open with the customers, like, hey, this is what this is for. This is what this is for. You know, we'll get a lot of calls like, hey, I got an email from you guys, but I don't know what it means. I think it's just really important to see what's actually being sent out. And we have like a good system where we know what they're receiving. We just kind of have to look for it a little bit. But that way it's like when they call, it's like we know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what kind of tools does Allstate set you guys up with in regards to, like, for me, I came to real estate from swinging hammers. So it was basically like, here's a hammer, here's a pry bar, go build a structure. And then showing up here, it was like, all right, let's talk about the contact management systems. Let's talk about how do we do some of these things electronically. And I was like, whoa, okay. And then also seeing between myself and then people at different teams or brokerages, hearing about the different systems. So what kind of systems does Allstate have to really help you guys out in regards to best serving the customer?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically, you know, the Allstate platform, where it's like, you know, we have all their contact information. That's number one. But then we have kind of like our contact platform, you could say, where, you know, that's what's gonna show us kind of what communications the customers are receiving, and things like that. And then, I mean, now in the insurance space, you know, it's just because it is so heavily regulated, it's like we have to use you know, the regulated you know, texting platform. So there's that. I mean, things are just kind of getting added in here and there, but it's a lot of it is for security, and a lot of it is for compliance. So I think that's kind of the difference when you're working with it like an independent agent as opposed to like a captive agent, is that we are having to follow a lot more rules.
Yep.
But you know, yeah, it might be a little bit annoying or a little bit, you know, of a nuisance in comparison to a captive agent. But I feel like you're also giving, you know, customers peace of mind that, you know, their information isn't just all over the place.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can weigh them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you guys have a physical location in Avondale, correct?
We do. It's off of 103rd and McDowell.
Okay.
Right behind Gateway.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as the overhead for that space goes, do you mind if I ask in regards to how does that get taken care of?
No.
Like, we don't have to go into specifics or pricing or stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But is that something that is on your shoulders to make sure, hey, like, we have a space similar to this one that, okay, we rent from the landlord and we pay for that, or is that something that Allstate pays for and it comes out as a percentage of on the policies that they sell? It's like, okay, they have to keep a certain percentage of that to basically cover overhead. Yeah.
No, so the way that it works is, you know, Allstate pays you your commission and you pay all the overhead. It's pretty simple that way. When a new agent comes on, and it might be a little bit different, but it's been a while since I was a new agent. It's been a while. But when I was first starting out, a lot of agents, because I already had an existing location, I didn't really have to worry about it. But the new agents, it's like they had to worry about the radius. It couldn't be within certain proximity to another agency, and things like that. They had to be, there's certain requirements as far as the building. Also, they had to approve it. But yeah, no, as far as like overhead, the agents take care of it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you mind if I ask, if you want to skip this one, we can move on. I think I forgot to put this one in the notes.
Yeah.
But how many people would you say we'll just say a typical agent might work with in regards to customers?
Yeah.
And we can do ballpark numbers, keep it very round if you want to, or we could even just skip the question if you want altogether.
I mean, it varies so much. There's small agencies and there's very large agencies. I mean, it's kind of hard to answer, to be honest. And especially now because it's just changing so much. Before, a new agent had to come in and they had to get a physical location. Now it's a little bit more flexible where they're letting them work from home. So maybe someone that is working from home could manage a small book of business and it's sustainable for them. Whereas, there's other agents where it's like they have a large book of business and they have several locations. So, I mean, I think the insurance space is really kind of for everyone, really. If that's a business that you want to take on, I mean, I think it's very accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much work do you do remote then? Obviously, you've got the physical location that you're paying for, so there's a part of it where it's like, I would assume that you're going to be like, hey, if I'm paying for it, I'm showing up to it. But at the same time, there's also, I'm assuming, an aspect where it's like, I don't have to be there 24/7. So,
yeah. Actually, I do no remote work.
Wow. Okay.
I can't work from my house. I'll be completely honest with you. If I'm at home, I'm doing laundry, I'm cleaning my house, I'm doing the lawn, whatever. So I don't. If I take my laptop home for something, it's because it's a task that I have to check off. It's really not to, have a session of work at home. I just can't work there, to be honest. I prefer to work at the office. I feel like it's just like that's where I work.
Yes, I felt the same way.
Whereas
you could do 99% of real estate remotely, except for maybe doing showings.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
For me, it was like, no, I'm going to drive to work every day because that way I'm at work. I am doing work. I'm not distracted by, maybe we'll just wait till 10 a.m., then 11 a.m. And then it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and then I kind of struggle with what is productive, right?
Okay.
What is work? Because I feel like I'm almost, and I hate to say it because it's so cliche, but it's like I'm always working.
Right.
And what do I mean by that? It's like, if I'm not at work, I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about a call I forgot. I'm thinking about content that I want to make. So, I mean, is that work? I don't know. I kind of feel like it is. I suffer from insomnia. So sometimes at 2 a.m,
Ooh.
I'll be like, I should do this. I should put this together. I'll look through my phone. I'm like, so I don't know, like when does it really stop? I don't think it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that balance work then with, like, I know exactly what you're talking about, where it doesn't matter almost the time of day, your mind can start just running. But obviously, like, you're a mom of a couple kids, so then there's not just the work hat, but there's also the mom hat. How do you kind of go through kind of playing both those roles?
It just happens, with my kids. I love that. I love being in the position I am. Why? Because my kids have a lot of access to me, right? So my kids go to school probably 10 minutes from my office. So what happens is I run out at 3:00, go pick up my kids, and they come right back to the office with me. And, if they're not at school, they're either with me, they're with their dad, whatever, whatever given day. But, I mean, it just happens. Like I try my best not to segment it that way, where it's like if my kids are with me, my kids are with me. And I really enjoy that part because I love that my kids see us working. I love that they are seeing ways that they can acquire skills. I think for me as a parent, I'm like, one of my goals is I want my kids to acquire skills and to acquire knowledge. I don't want them to ever feel stuck, in a job like I felt for a long time. So I think if I can give them the tools to be business minded, I think that's so instrumental. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did you feel stuck, and then what was kind of the catalyst for that change? Because I know that there's some times where some people will be in a job and it's like, hey, like,
yeah,
it's just, this is how it is. Like, you have assumptions. I remember, like, I worked for the general contractor that I'm with for about 4 years, and for the longest time it was just like the idea of changing jobs seemed like daunting, like I'm never gonna do it, like, and then finally like got to a point where like, all right, I made the jump, and I was like, oh, that was a lot easier than I thought. But like, how was that experience for you? And then how was that experience even how has that influenced how you work now and the perspective that you take into it?
Absolutely. So I mean, when I was in banking, it was almost like, my parents were so proud that we had like an office job, right? Coming from, parents that, they hustled, they immigrated here from Mexico. So they were hustling, they were working at restaurants. My dad had, several side hustles, my mom too. So like for them, it was a point of pride where it's like, oh, you guys have an office job. So it was almost like we felt like, well, I mean, at least for myself, I'm like, I felt like, I was like, I should be proud of the job I'm at. I feel stuck, but hey, I have a good hourly wage. I have benefits, so I should be grateful, right? But a lot of the times I hated it. It wasn't, you weren't really building anything, right? So then I ventured out and I looked for kind of an office job. I started working at a title company in the accounting department. And I learned so much. I feel like every job I learned so much. I feel like in banking, I really learned kind of just the professionalism, customer service and how to treat people.
What part of banking were you in?
So just a branch. So I was like a bank teller for like 4 years, and then I moved to like customer service in the bank, which is very different than it is now. I mean, banking kind of stinks now.
Banking right now is a machine that you just put your card into. Yeah,
no, there's no customer service. I can't believe you have to make an appointment to get a debit card. It's so weird.
Are you serious?
You can't talk to a banker if you walk into a branch. So yeah, it's very different for sure. And then so I moved into title, and I was there in the accounting department for a couple of years. And then so in that whole transition is I was working in the accounting department, then I moved into an actual physical office for a title company. So I was like a receptionist and then an escrow assistant. And it's funny because I was telling some of my friends the other day, we were having this conversation where it's like, no one knows that I did title and escrow for a long time. And I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to share it because I was so terrible at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if there was one job I wanted to be good at, it was that. But my brain just doesn't work that way. It's so, and hats off to those professionals that do it. But I was to the point where it's like I was making errors and I was about to get fired. So that was the moment I was like, okay, I have, I'm not going to grow here. Like I cannot. I physically cannot do this job.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a little bit, like hurts my pride a little bit because I really wanted to be good at it. But But yeah, I know it just wasn't for me. And it's like, I was just routed a different way. So I kind of made the decision, like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go. My son was about 1 at the time. And I was working a lot. I was working my 9 to 5, 8 to 5, more like, and I was missing a lot of my kids. I was married at the time, and we kind of decided that I could stay home for about a year. And it was just such a sweet time, being at home, but it really kind of made me it made me become a little bit more vigilant with my time and how a company was going to take my time. So when I decided to work for my brother, it's like, well, you're going to give me my flexibility because I'm going to be home with my kids and they need me. And I'm not going to just be a slave to my job and take that experience from them, So that's kind of how that's kind of the shift that kind of took place for me to just really be wanting to have my own business and the flexibility.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is growth another part of that? Because I feel like I heard you mention that a couple times in regards to the banking. You said you didn't feel like there was going to be a lot of room for growth, and then the title company obviously was like, all right, seems like this is just not working out, so there's probably not going to be a long-term growth there. Is that a big deal for you? I know that there's a lot of people where it's like, hey, if they feel like they can't see themselves in a place where they're progressing over 5, 10, however many years, they're like, this is not the place for me. Like, I got to get out of here. Or there's some people who even just want, like, I want an infinite ceiling. So I don't know how far I'll take that, but I don't want to feel like someone is putting that cap on me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I do have that growth mindset where it's like, the awesome part about having your own insurance agent is you can make it as big as you want to. Or if you want to stay small and be sustainable for you and your employees, it kind of affords for that as well. I think as a mom, that's so important for me because it's like, hey, I see these agents doing amazing, great big things and they're growing their agency so fast. And that's great. And I'm like here applauding them. And you know what, man, I wish I could do something like that. But I'm okay with where I'm at in my life where it's like, I'm a single mom, I'm doing what I can, and I'm going to grow as, sustainable as possible, So I think for me, it's that, where it's like, I have the capability of growing as much as I want to, but it also affords for other opportunities, in exploring other options as well. That's the great thing about, insurance and residuals is, you're going to have that income. And it's really kind of whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then I did have a question in regards to residuals. So is that a commission that happens every time a policy is renewed then? Mm-hmm. And how does that all work? Yeah.
So for example, for example, an auto policy, it renews every 6 months.
Okay.
So you get a percentage off of that renewal. And then for homeowners, it's every year. We also do landlord policies. We also do off-road vehicles. There's a life insurance component as well. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works, and you build your business, your book off of that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then is the residual, is it a straight percentage across the board for the most part? Does it vary based on, okay, auto's going to be 1%, home might be a little bit more or less, and then same thing going to any of the other policies that you set up?
So right now I haven't explored too deep into like the new contract, because it is kind of shifting a little bit, but it used to be where it was like a set amount for home and auto, but now they're kind of changing it a little bit, and it's also going to be based off performance. There's going to be that component built into it.
Interesting.
So I have to sit down with my leaders and kind of see what we're going to be doing in the next 6 months. And that's why I'm not making too many like moves within the agency, because I'm like, okay, how are we going to shift?
Right.
So it's a lot of that.
Yeah. It's always interesting when things start changing. You're going, wait a minute.
Yep.
What's happening?
Yep. let me find out first, and then we'll see what happens.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Long term, I know that you talked about you're trying to take it one step at a time with where you're at, just as being a mom, but also an insurance agent. So long term, if you were to say, hey, here's the big grand vision. If I could paint exactly what I want into reality, what does that look like? Is it building a team methodically to where you have multiple agents inside of that? Is it more you want to keep it at a certain size, but say, hey, I'm looking for very specific people to be in the office that can handle what I want? Or what is that vision inside of your mind that you see that you want to bring into reality?
Yeah, so I think I do want to grow the agency to where, I would love it if for Mo took over the agency. That would be a dream for me. I would love to pass that down to them. But I think it's that where it's like, I want to put the right people in place where, it's sustainable on its own. I mean, I think I'm in it for the long term for sure. But like you said, I'm taking it like one step at a time and really just accepting where I'm at in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know one of the things I see every once in a while is you're flying planes on Instagram.
Yeah.
So do you have your pilot's license? Are you working on getting your pilot's license? What is going on with that?
Oh my gosh. So I'm working on getting my private pilot license, which is the very first one. And there's levels to this. You know, it takes a long, long time to, be able to fly like a commercial plane. And I really don't even know where I'm going with it just yet. But it's very exciting. I remember when I was in high school and we took a field trip over to Glendale Airport. And we got on one of the small Cessnas, and they took us up for like 15 minutes. And then and it wasn't something that I was like immediately like, oh, this is what I'm passionate about. But it did pique my interest. And then, after I opened the agency, I'm like, I love insurance, but it's boring. I'm like, I really feel like I need to be doing something that I'm a little bit passionate about. Just a little bit exciting, a little bit different than just the regular. Flying planes, it's really fun. It's really exciting. But I mean, I feel like it just kind of goes back to building skills, right? Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is a very marketable skill. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I know that I can do something with it. And I know I can make money off of it, right? So I'm having a good time. But I know at some point I'm going to be able to monetize it. So I think it's just that. It's just like acquiring a skill.
How often do you have to fly? I know that I've heard isn't there like a considerable amount of hours where they're like, hey, you need to have however many on a regular basis to be able to keep that pilot's license? How does that all work?
You know what? I'm not there yet to find out. I'm still working on my private pilot license, and you need about 40 hours, I believe, to complete that one. And you do have to do like an exam at the end with like I forget what they call it, but it's basically an examiner comes on and they fly with you and they kind of check off that you can do all the things, right? And right now I'm just flying the single engine Cessnas, which is, just the small planes. But yeah, no, I know there are certain schools where if you're doing it full time, it's like 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. But I was fortunate to find a school that was a lot more flexible. And I just really go as I'm able to, really, because it is very expensive to do. So I wish I could fly more, but I kind of have to like rein it back a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have to pay for like by the hour, by like the fuel, or is it the instructor? Is it all of it, or? Yeah.
So it's a fee of, there's like an instructor fee, and then there's the plane fee. So you pay for, mileage on the plane and then the fuel.
Okay.
So it's like, I think on an hourly basis, the school I'm with, it's like $150 or so.
Okay.
Per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not cheap.
No. Is it always funny though, like how everyone seems to find their hobby?
Yeah.
And that's where their money goes. Like,
Oh my gosh,
if it's cars, if it's guns, if it's CrossFit or working out, like powerlifting, doesn't matter. It's like people are gonna be like,
yeah,
don't get too excited because
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's just those things that just kind of create passion in you, and I think that's just so important to have, because it's outside of just the monotone, like just make your money at your work kind of sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I did, this is kind of jumping back to the insurance side, but I had thought of in regards to insurance, and it kind of started with the lending area.
Yeah.
Where I thought, like you said earlier, not a lot of people grow up going, I want to be a lender, I want to be an insurance agent, or there's several jobs where it's like they are great jobs that are necessary for our society to go on. So if someone wanted to get involved in insurance like you are right now, it's what do they have to do? First of all, I know you mentioned that there's licenses, but also what would you recommend to them? Because not everyone is going to be like, you know what, I'm going to take over my brother's business in 3 months because that seems aggressive, first of all. And then not everyone has someone like that who's already in the industry. So what would your recommendation be for someone that's like, hey, I see what Leslie's doing. Seems like she's doing something similar to what I would like to be doing. Yeah. How would you advise someone to kind of be moving in that direction?
Yeah. So first I would probably say, decide what you want to do with it. You know, kind of what does that look like for you? You know, if your idea is to become, you know, your own agent, you know, your own business, you know, obviously you have to learn the insurance side of things, but you also have to be business minded, and you have to create a plan for what you want your business to look like. But if you just want to work in insurance, I mean, it's such a simple thing. And I think that if you want to go work for an insurance agent, you become so marketable once you have your PNC, your property and casualty license. Everyone will want you. Like, there's no insurance agency out there that's not hiring. So I think if that's the route you want to take, simply go get your insurance license. You know, any agent will guide you how to do it. But it's just, you know, basically studying and taking that exam, and you automatically become a very valuable prospect once you have that license in hand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. How hard is it to get the license and pass the exam?
It's very difficult. I've been able to license a few of my staff, and you know, you get 4 tries per exam, and most of them have gotten it on the 4th try. So you have to be very dedicated to the studying. You have to be, you know, very, you know, you have to want to get it. You know, when I got mine, I was under a lot of stress to get it. So I was able to pass it on the first try, but I was very motivated. So I think it's just that. It's just the motivation part.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With real estate, they're basically like, just pass the test. If you fail it, you can do it again. Yeah. You can do it again in 48 hours. And I've seen and heard stories about guys who have taken it a ridiculous amount of times.
Oh my gosh.
It took me several times to get it. So that's the typical story where it's like, yeah, it took 3 to 5 times usually for someone to get it. But then you'll hear it somewhere it's like, yeah, I'm on my 9th try. And you're like, okay, you either need to study or maybe tests aren't for you. Maybe this industry's not for you. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious.
Yeah, you have to really hit those bugs. It's it's not easy.
Yeah. And then something we'll kind of finish with is we met through church. So something I like to ask people is, how does your faith influence your work and then influence your outlook on the work that you do?
Yeah. My faith is just so instrumental with just my life altogether. I mean, I think with the business side of things, it's just the integrity part. I mean, integrity is of the utmost, and having a reputation for having integrity is, it's kind of a game changer, because there are a lot of not only insurance agents, but a lot of business owners that are willing to cut corners or maybe not be super honest or like disclose or, whatever the case might be. I think I want to make sure that, if I write a policy, I want to make sure that policy is written correctly. I think it's one of those things for me. It's just a perpetual rule follower, right? But I want to make sure that what's going to happen in any given case, when it comes to your policy and things like that. But also, I think just walking in integrity, when you walk into a room, it's like people can kind of tell like what kind of person you are and character and all those things. And, it's so easy to maybe compromise on your values, right? So I think it just follows me, and it's something that I'm very cognizant about with, just I don't want to be caught doing something I'm not supposed to. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we are approaching the 1 hour mark, so we do have a couple final questions for you.
Okay.
These ones we'll kind of go through pretty quickly, but what's the most impactful thing you've learned?
Always be learning. Always be a student. Never think that you know it all. There's always someone that's done it better, wrote it better. Like, don't think you're above anything.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I love the Godfather series. Okay. I love them gangster movies. Those are fun.
A little PBD right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's my favorite movie, I would say.
First character strength that comes to mind?
First character strength? What do you mean?
Like, if you were to say, like, when you look at someone and say, hey, like, if you were to describe them, that person is determined, they're tenacious, or they seem to be able to pick things up quickly. Just what character strength would you, when you evaluate yourself, do you feel like, what's the first one that comes to mind for you that is a real strength?
I think authenticity is just, I think that's a big one for me. It's like, I always kind of try to show up in my authentic self. I think, just being personable and just being real. I feel like a lot of time we kind of want to be perceived a certain way, right? And we kind of try to hide certain things about ourselves. But I think authenticity is just going to be such a great way to connect with other people.
What's your favorite travel destination?
That I've gone to or that I want to go to?
Let's do both.
My favorite travel so far... I went to Seattle a couple years ago on a solo trip, and that was amazing. I really love just the cold weather. It's so great. But in the future, like I don't know, I always kind of wanted to see the Taj Mahal and maybe
really?
do like Israel. Those would be like my top.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And then where can people follow you or find what you're doing? Contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram. If you search Phoenix Insurance Agent, you'll find me. My handle is Leslie.e.navarro. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I believe you also have a website too that I can I'll throw in the video as well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so we have like our agency website. We're also on Facebook. Google us. Navarro Insurance Agency.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Dad.
All right. Thank you for everyone who listens and watches this. I And until next time, I hope your hammer stays accurate, your Wi-Fi fast, and your work blessed. See you, everybody.